Hey everybody, Zee Garcia here, and today we are going to go to the Dream Factory and try to take over for Nicodemus. Nicodemus here is a two-player only game set in the same world as Imaginarium. A world in which you work at a factory that produces dreams. That's supposed to be the theme, though really the game is a Euro-style game, mechanically speaking, and it has a very strange look, very strange sort of quirky mechanisms. That's how the original one works. A lot of that has moved over to this game, in feel at least, though the games are completely different. And you do not need to be aware of the original game or even know anything about it to understand how this works or enjoy it, of course. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at how this works. I'll show you on the table, give you a little overview of the mechanisms involved, and then I'll see you on the other side. Here we've got the game set up and ready to go. Everybody gets 5 cards from the shuffle deck. We reveal one into the line here, and we are going to set up all of the resources, shuffle up these goals, and reveal 6 right here. The objective is to get to 20 points first, and then at the end of that round, whoever has the most points is going to be the winner, but you are racing to 20. And so, on your turn, you are going to do one of 2 things. You can repair a machine that is out here in the center of the table, or you can discard one to the line, at the end of the line here. You'll see the arrows pointing this way, it goes this way, and wraps around to the top. And then when you discard one, you'll take one action with that card. So for example, if it is my turn first, and it is because I start with a slightly different resource allocation than the second player, then I'm going to play a card. And I might, for example, play this one here. When you do that, you get to take one of 3 different options. The first one, take as much charcoalium, which is this stuff right here, very cool little resource. You get as much charcoalium as the value in victory points of the card. So that's my first option. I could take 2 of those. Second option, I could take the resource associated with this machine, meaning 1 wood. And this is wood, copper, and crystal out here. And then the third and final option, I could instead take the action associated with this. In this case, this lets me trade charcoalium for resources up to 3 times. All right? So I might do that and then take, say, 1 wood, and then I'm going to draw a new card into my hand. And it would be my opponent's turn to take one of those 2 actions, build a machine or play a card, okay? So they might, for example, play this one here. And instead of taking 3 charcoalium or taking 1 wood, they might do this ability here that lets them take a look at 2 of these goals, of the ones that haven't been set out, take a look at 2 of those, and then keep one that they are going to possibly score later on in the game, but only they can do it. So they have a secret goal now. That's fantastic. And then they draw a card, and it is back to me. So let me show you what the other option looks like. Okay, let's say I've already done a few different things here, and we filled up some cards. I took some of that, and I have, whatever the case may be, some allocation of cards here. And so, let's say this is what I've got in front of me. Now I'm going to do that second option, build something from the lineup. The last one here, meaning the latest one that was played, which is right here in this spot, I could choose to build that one for the cost listed right here. They all have a cost associated with that machine. In this case, it's 2 copper, 1 crystal. So I can build that one by discarding 2 copper, 1 crystal. I take it, I earn that many victory points, and I put it in front of me. If I want anything that is older than that, has been played previously, then I need to pay 1 charcoalium for each one I want to skip, and I'll put it right on that card. In fact, that's what I'll do. I'm going to skip this one, and I'm going to build that card there for 3 wood and 1 copper. I will do that. I'm going to take this card. I'm going to score my 3 victory points, and then I'll put it in front of me. Once I've done that, I'm going to check if I can complete any of these goals. Have 2 yellow machines. Have 2 machines worth 2 victory points each. Have 2 machines that make charcoalium in their little area. 2 machines that make wood, and so on, okay? I have a single one here. Obviously, I will not do that right now. The last thing I need to check after I've built something, I'll also scoot this back, by the way. After I've built something and I check if I've completed any of the goals and get victory points for those, then I need to check if I have 4 machines. If I do, I am going to keep only the last one built. So let's say I've built all of these, and then I build one more from out here. This is the new one. I would get my points, I would check for goals. In this case, for example, I now have, well, I don't have any, but if I did this, I have the 2 that make copper, if there's this one that's copper. So I might take that and get the victory points for it. Then I am going to only keep of these 4 the last one I have, and the others are banked. I'll just set them aside face down somewhere. And so this lineup is going to reset every time I get to 4, and I only keep the newest one, and the other ones are set aside. That means that these goals are time sensitive. I need to make sure that if I'm going to accomplish one of them, I accomplish it within 4 cards, because then I will lose the old 3 and just keep the latest one, and I have to start working towards these combinations again. And that's the game. There's one more little rule, which is if the top here fills and the bottom ones go away and the top ones come to the bottom, just to cycle this out a little bit here. But that's pretty much it. And then, of course, the special abilities of all of these machines, which are a little symbol heavy, but there's a few different things. The red ones are going to be more confrontational. This one lets me steal from my opponents. There are a few that are going to let me discard cards from my hand and get rewards. Some of them are going to, like this one here, lets me take the special ability of anything previous on the line. Very powerful. There are some that are going to get me a number of copper or crystal or whatever, equal to how many machines out there have that as their resource. So it's that general sort of thing that you'll be doing with these. Just trying to manipulate the special abilities, what you do, when you do it, collecting resources, and then building these up, achieving these goals. That's pretty much that. When somebody, again, gets to 20, we'll finish out the round, and whoever has the most points at that moment is going to be the winner of the game. So let's go ahead and go back up top. Let me tell you what I think of it. So that is Nicodemus here. One important thing I forgot to mention in the overview, by the way, which is a big part of the game, an important part to understand, is that of the machines you have in front of you, up to 4, right? The new machines you are buying and the new things you are acquiring are going to be discounted based on the thing that that machine makes. So if I have in front of me 2 machines and they make, say, a wooden resource, if I buy a third one to put in front of me and it costs 3 wood and 1 copper, I only pay the copper and 1 of the 3 wood, because I'm discounting it by 2 in front of me. And that's a big part of the strategy in the game, okay? So let's go ahead and jump into my breakdown of what I think of the game, and I'll start right there with tactics, luck, and strategy. The discounts, like I said, are a big part of the game because the game is a race, and it's all about finding as good a tempo as you can, chaining together machines that provide further discounts to the new machines you are acquiring and picking up speed, raising your tempo over your opponent. Of course, that will reset back down to a single machine when you acquire your 4th. And then you need to chain that along. So it's this twofold thing with having things in front of you that are going to satisfy the conditions on the goals, net you a few more points. But also simply buying things and acquiring machines that make sense based on the discounts you've already got in front of you so that you can get ahead. Those two are sometimes at odds, and it adds an interesting amount of tactical interest to the game, okay? So I like that quite a bit, though it can sometimes be a little bit subtle, triggering, knowing what to trigger on what card from your hand, knowing how to utilize and acquire what you've got, knowing when to go after your opponent versus just helping yourself. That is all fairly subtle and kind of quirky, and I think I'll say that word a decent amount because this game is strange. So that's tactics, luck, and strategy, which I like. Two other things I like in the game. The game arc feels great. It's not a long game, and I like the tension of it being very much a race to 20 points. It's all about trying to get there before your opponent does so, before they develop a rhythm that they can stick with and keep plucking away those goals before you get a chance to do it. Once they take it, they do not replenish those 6 that are revealed. You do not bring out a new one when they're gone, so you need to make sure you are understanding what's required and targeting those things, both for the points and to deny your one singular opponent the ability to do it themselves, right? And then the other thing is ease of play. While the game is strange, I think the turn structure is solid. It's pretty easy to understand what you ought to be doing, or how to accomplish it anyway. And so it has an interesting flow to the whole thing, in which you spend, yes, many turns just playing out a card, adding to the lineup, to the chomper there as it's called, acquiring some resources, maybe triggering an ability to steal something from your opponent. And then after a few turns of that and prepping your engine, then buying something new, accounting for what it provides you, the discount, the abilities, or the goals rather, at the table, that you can maybe change something else to that. The cool part of it is the more cards you play, if there's one out there you really want, the more cards you play to the center, and your opponent, of course, the more buried that card gets, meaning the more charcoalium you're going to need to drop off on the newer machines and acquire that previous one. So pretty good ease of play, though again kind of quirky. Now the other 3 things I'm not as big a fan of. The theme and the setting is the same as Imaginarium, which means bizarre. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's just strange. It's hard to find a connection to what's going on in the game that sort of draws you in and makes any thematic sense whatsoever. The setting is abstracted, let's say. It's certainly not an abstract game, but it is quite dreamlike, I suppose. So it's hard to find a sort of a point of attachment to it emotionally. The aesthetics are quite divisive in this game, and they have been for both Imaginarium before this one, which is a bigger game, and this one. Same art style, very weird illustrations that are clearly photographic, images that have been manipulated to look very strange. So I think a lot of people are going to have a hard time with that. Some people seem to love it. Some people find it, abhor the artwork. So it's quite divisive. And then in this one, on top of that, some of the iconography I think could have been better. So you're going to want to possibly print out another set of reference. In the book, there's a reference for what all the card symbols do. You might want to print out another one of those from the PDF of the rulebook and give it to your opponent so that you can both reference that. You'll be looking at it a lot. The iconography is not the most straightforward I've seen in games. And then lastly, replay value. There's a few ways that you can tackle what it is you're doing. You can be more confrontational, less confrontational, but it's generally the point of the game and what you are trying to achieve is the same every time, and sort of fairly obvious what you should be doing. Tempo, that's a good word for it. Combos, yes, certainly. Acquiring the things for the one machine you want to buy, yes, of course. Knowing what card to play, that's an interesting aspect. You want to ideally not leave a machine out there that your opponent already has the resources to buy. So that's a consideration you want to keep in mind. But also what things you need to acquire. You need more crystal, then you need to find a way to make that crystal. So if you have a card that gives you that crystal, then it doesn't really matter too much if your opponent can build it. You need it for your plans, right? So those things can be interesting to the replay value, but I find it to be not terribly, I guess I'll say, innovative every time you play. Every time you play, the game will feel generally the same, and you might start falling behind in turn order or in victory points, and Perhaps you can try to catch up, but it generally plays the same. So there you go. This one I think is going to appeal to people who enjoyed the original Imaginarium. It captures some of the essence of that. I think these designers, and especially Bruno Catala, is very good at having a spin-off game to something else that retains the core ideas and emotions of that original thing. If the game felt like it made you push your luck and think about your opponents as much as you did about yourself, usually the spin-off game will retain that. If the game was very much about positional awareness, the spin-off will generally keep that. This one keeps a few things from the original. Quirky, feels strange, it feels otherworldly in many ways. I think it retains all of that. Mechanically, it's sort of strange and not the most straightforward thing. Some things seem counterintuitive. This one retains that from Imaginarium. But I like the game. I don't love it. I like it. I think if you liked the original one, I think you'll like this one as well. The biggest problem is honestly going to be the artwork, I think, and you can tell that right away by looking at this. If you find it that it is repelling you, then I don't think you're going to like it, or you felt that way about the original game Imaginarium. But if you want to try one in the same world with the same artwork, some of the same feelings, that is much shorter and for 2 people only, this is a good one for that. So Nicodemus for me is going to get a 6 out of 10. I think it's neat. I don't think it's the most readily captivating 2-player game I've played, certainly, but it is one that deserves some exploration and I think could hold your attention. So there you go, everybody. That is Nicodemus from me, Zee Garcia. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one.